Well, here's a question. Why was Hillary Clinton never prosecuted? The Durham Report shows that the reasons that Hillary Clinton is treated differently than Donald Trump are indeed political. I know you're shocked. Now, I'm not the kind of person who ever put a lot of stock into the lock her up chant. But at this point, now that we see in black and white an internal investigation of the FBI, we must wonder, why is one candidate from one political party treated differently? The Durham Report, which was released just yesterday, does indeed show that there are two different standards for different people of power, especially as it relates to the Justice Department. And it is damning. I want to say, I've been thinking about this a lot today. I do think that this report shows to me that the system is still alive, that it's still well-intentioned because of the fact that we have the report at all. There is still a system to say something's not right, let's look into it. And we do, in fact, have a quality report. Will it work? If the FBI stands by what it says about the report, namely that it does show bias in investigations and needs to be fixed. But can they ever really heal it as long as one candidate continues to be prosecuted and one candidate does not? We're still now in the 2016 election looking at what happened and why the fallout continues for one person and not another. And it's real.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, how is she still allowed to go on and sit there on stage at these different events and sort of laugh it up about how this election was, Trump was a criminal? She's still spouting these lies about Russia interference in the election. She's still to this day spouting these lies about it.
Right. When actually the report shows that the FBI was themselves a victim of Russian disinformation, but sort of a willing participant. I'm going to show that to you. Just a little recap. The Durham Report is the finale, if you will, the final report of the special counsel investigation that was commissioned in 2020 by then Attorney General William Barr. And it was given to this man you see here, Special Investigator John Durham. His team was tasked with looking into the FBI investigation of the 2016 election, including they looked over the Mueller report and they looked specifically at Crossfire Hurricane, which was the FBI investigation looking into the Trump-Russia link. Now, here's one of the main conclusions, and it is damning. I know that's kind of hard to read, but what it says is that the people in charge of putting these investigations on, going forward with them, at a minimum had hostile feelings towards Trump, and then the matter was given full speed ahead at a rate that is not normal for normal investigations. And look at the last paragraph there. It says the speed and manner in which the FBI opened and investigated Crossfire Hurricane during the presidential election season based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence also reflected a noticeable departure for how it approached prior matters involving possible attempted foreign election interference plans aimed at the Clinton campaign. Now, you may recall that James Comey had come out in front of the election in 2016 and said, we don't recommend any criminal charges for Hillary Clinton, but she used bad judgment and we're going to refer this over. And he was excoriated for that because people had said you should not have impugned her without giving her her day in court. You've sort of put slime on her, tampered with her reputation without her having the civil right to defend herself. And people disagreed with him actually doing that. It seems like then, there was sort of, they gave her that, I don't know, depending on your camp, you can say they gave her a pass, or you can say they gave her a slam, depending on how you feel about it. But she did not, in fact, have her day in court. Whereas the President Trump, has been screaming all along that the investigations about him were politically motivated and unbased. Here is CNN's Jake Tapper admitting that to a degree is true. It's amazing that CNN aired these on their airwaves. I almost passed away from shock.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Wow. It does to a degree.
To a degree.
So what degree, I love people asking, what degree is that exactly? What degree is it that...
Is it a 180?
Is it a 360?
Well, 360, you'd end up where you started. It's a 180.
Is it 180? Is it a 90 degree angle? What degree? To what degree? It does to a degree.
Right.
More of a 720, like a 720 because they're spinning.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he short-circuited the bot that was Jake Tapper.
Yeah.
Short-circuited because he said something that he really did not want to say. Okay, now to this degree, not only does this show that every time there was an opportunity to investigate Donald Trump, the agency just hopped to, it also showed that the agency had intel on Hillary Clinton's plan to use this Trump-Putin-Russia link, and they decided to drop it. Here is where that's laid out, and I'd like to read it to you because I think it's important. It says, these examples are markedly different from the FBI's actions with respect to other highly significant intelligence it received from a trusted foreign source pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by using him to Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server. Unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information, in this separate matter involving a purported Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry, issued any taskings, employed any analytical personnel, or produced any analytical products in connection with the information. This lack of action was despite the fact that the significance of the Clinton plan intelligence was such to have prompted the director of the CIA to brief the president, vice president, attorney general, director of the FBI, and other senior government officials about it within days of its receipts. Well, who was the president at the time who was briefed on this plan?
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama was told by the CIA and the FBI, Hillary Clinton's about to, the Clinton campaign is about to do this, drag through the mud. And, in this dragging of the mud, we're going to pick up Russia and Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. So just think about this. John Brennan, who's now working at MSNBC, right? Uh-huh. So John Brennan, he's the guy that went on the air a number of months ago, and when they asked him who was responsible for the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, he said it was clearly Russia. John Brennan, right, the former head of the CIA, he's in this meeting with Barack Obama, basically admitting to a coup, like this involvement in a coup of the United States. A sitting president of the United States colluding with intelligence and the attorney general.
They were at the very least briefed on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you do nothing about it?
And they did nothing.
And they did nothing about it. So you're the acting director of the CIA, and someone comes in and says they're going to make up a story in order to throw the election. And you're like, all right, I'm going to go get some lunch.
Well,
that
guess
sounds like
who
a plan.
else knew about this at the time? The vice president. Who was vice president at the time? The current president.
The current president.
So he, too,
was
coup. Briefed.
What else is it? This is a coup.
Well, okay. They're told we have intel that the Clinton campaign may be doing this. They are close to the Clinton campaign. They could say, we better stop them, or maybe tell them not to do that, or maybe continue to investigate if they're going to do that. But instead, as a full investigation blooms around Trump, they let this one slide. Now, again, here we know that at least the FBI knew about this smear campaign, and they ran it all the way up the flagpole. But a smear campaign in and of itself is not illegal. And they address this early in the brief. They say, that's legal. You can use bad judgment.
By who, though? Who's doing the smearing? I mean,
right. So when we come
is it legal? Sorry, is it legal that the intelligence community and the attorney general are going to smear a political candidate? Like that falls under. That's the problem with this. As people are asking in the chat, they're like, we know this now, but like, what next? Is this illegal?
Yes. You can smear anybody with any kind of lies. Yes, you can. I can say that you had an affair with the president of Antarctica. Okay. Is there even a president of Antarctica?
No, there's not.
That's why I say that.
That's okay. A lie.
I can say that. I can, but if I go to a government agency and say, Clayton's having an affair with the president of Antarctica.
Okay, let's not use this as an example.
Why? It's
because I love Antarctica.
Stupid. Okay. And then I say, I'm going to give evidence so that some investigation happens. I'm lying. I'm giving false evidence. That is illegal. You can smear all you want. You can say stupid things to the press. You can get the press on their side. They absolutely did that. But then when it comes to like giving false evidence, and in fact, one FBI attorney has been prosecuted from this investigation for falsifying documents that led to Crossfire Hurricane. So what we, the people, should want to know is who knew what, when, who handed information directly, because it did go through Clinton lawyers, Clinton campaign lawyers, and did they pass on knowingly false information to government investigators in order to smear Donald Trump as a way to boost their own campaign? We are owed that. What we only know is that they knew, they did it on purpose, and that the FBI let it drop. What we don't know is why they don't pick it back up and why they were never prosecuted. Some other things that I think worth looking into. The documents show that the Clinton campaign hired a law firm to push the Steele dossier towards an investigation of Donald Trump. Steele and the FBI relied heavily on one source for this, Igor Danchenko. Here's a picture of that dude. The report shows that the FBI had made errors about his travel, where he lived. They knew that he had changed his statements from one person to the next, year to year, but they never accounted for that. And then they sort of decided, despite these holes in his profile, to pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars to be a source for information, which is interesting because he had been under investigation between the years of 2009 and 2011. And they thought that he might have been offering to sell classified information. They closed that investigation when they incorrectly believed he'd returned to Russia. So here is what Durham Report concludes about him, is that equally important is the fact that in not resolving Danchenko's status vis-a-vis the Russian intelligence service, it appears the FBI never gave appropriate consideration to the possibility that the intelligence Danchenko was providing to Steele, which again, according to Danchenko himself, made up a significant majority of the information in the Steele reports, was in part or in whole Russian disinformation. So this is so rich that the government is telling us all the time to be aware of Russian disinformation when they themselves have fallen victim to it by someone they were paying. So we need to watch out for Russian disinformation. But when they've got a Russian who's deliberately doing that and there's holes in their profile, they pay him.
Yeah, with taxpayer dollars.
With taxpayer dollars.
So that's the problem. You guys funded this. Like everyone watching right now funded this. Can you believe it?
Well, yes.
Your tax dollars went to this. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, to back up your claim too about the coup, do you remember that in 2020 there was a Time article, The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election?
No.
Do you remember that article that talked about how deep that went money-wise and all that stuff to basically a coup, like you said? It's exactly how it feels and looks.
I mean, what else is it? Can anyone else name what this is? Do you guys let me know in the chat what you think this is? I think it's a coup. I don't know how else you could frame it.
It feels to me like a bait and switch. Like she put out fake information. The FBI, based on internal biases, picked it up because that's what they wanted. Because, Trump was an undesirable candidate.
Led by having meetings in President Obama's office, right?
Yes.
Your candidate of choice, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's candidate of choice, Hillary Clinton, maybe not actually his selection of choice, but he was,
He had already made a deal with the devil.
Right.
Yes.
So in the office where this happened, and you've got the AG, you've got the head of the CIA, the FBI colluding, taking this bait and running with it, knowing that this was coming out and they're going to run with it. With zero evidence.
There is a possibility that that the president and his staff are briefed on this and they're like, oh, hopefully the FBI takes that one on, and then they don't follow up, because there is supposed to be this separation of the criminal justice system from the executive office. So we're not saying that then he was like, oh, okay, hopefully the FBI doesn't investigate that and then goes after Trump. We're not saying that, and we shouldn't say that because we don't know.
Right. Well, we weren't in the room, but I'm just saying.
But that does not a coup make.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Who was trying to talk?
Well, yeah, Philip, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, yeah. So pointing out that not only were they like being briefed on this, but it's also she was the former Secretary of State.
Yes.
For that administration. So it's like if nothing else, it just shows deep cronyism because what they're willing to do for their I don't know, friends, I guess.
Right, and you might be able to say, don't do that. That could be illegal. Right. I mean, she should know. She was a high performing lawyer.
And this is the question then. What laws were broken? And what prosecutions should be coming down the pike because of this?
Well, we see at least one FBI lawyer who falsified evidence for the investigation has been prosecuted. But we're not told how much the Clinton campaign pushed for this story that they made up. We don't know that yet. And yet, Donald Trump has been impeached for simply indicating to Zelensky that he'd like Joe Biden to be investigated. And Democrats called that a political campaign of asking a foreign head of state for a favor, for a political favor.
And this all comes after Joe Biden, then Vice President Biden, said on camera that he went to Ukraine and had them fire the prosecutor.
Yes.
And he called up President Obama and had him fire the prosecutor. So he's on camera admitting to it.
Yes.
So this is when Biden did that. And then they wanted to look into why.
That's a whole other ball of wax. Why didn't the FBI pick that one up? Why didn't the CIA pick that one up? Why was it on Trump to sort of suggest it? Right. We're not given that. Now he's been indicted for what is being called campaign finance misconduct for paying a woman he had an affair with, Stormy Daniels. He's punished for both things because they say it influenced elections. And yet Hillary Clinton created and led an investigation to influence an election and nothing. This is mobster stuff. Yeah. Right. And the report is full of sad errors and omissions that just shouldn't happen in a competent and unbiased organization. For instance, Michael Flynn, who was dragged through the mud as a major person of interest in the Trump campaign, he's now suing the Justice Department for what he says they did to his family and his life. This is going to be major fodder for that lawsuit, obviously, if he's going to be able to show you had so little on me, but you came at me full force because I was associated with Trump. Recall that he was pardoned by Trump. Also, here's a little interesting tidbit. He was fired by Obama after he tried to help Germany target al-Nusra in Syria. When the Obama administration wanted to help the al-Qaeda faction of al-Nusra, Michael Flynn actually wanted to take on Islamic extremism and this al-Qaeda faction, and he passed intelligence to Germany in order to actually help the Syrians, and he was fired for that. So already he was on the shit list of Hillary Clinton because, as we've established, she wanted that war in Syria for her reelection, and the war in Libya as well. So again, you see how this works out. One party and not the next, right? So what's the FBI's response to this? Well, here's what they said to Fox News. They said, yeah, this is bad stuff. We know, and we fixed it already. Here's their quote. The conduct in 2016 and 2017 that special counsel Durham examined was the reason the current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in this report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do the work with rigor, objectivity, and professionalism that we all deserve. Okay, they say they've already fixed these problems. This would not happen in the year 2023, right? But then you can fix it by actually investigating everything, right? If we're going to have the investigation of Trump, we deserve an investigation, a real one that never happened, of Hillary Clinton. You could sort of say statute of limitations, but recall that Trump is being indicted for something where the statute of limitations have already passed. He was tried for grape without the G in the Jean Carroll case that was past his statute of limitations, but they allowed her to change the statute of limitations in order to sue him. So statute of limitations, is that okay for one person and not the next? We're just wondering. And then as this all unravels, there's one thing that Aaron Mate brought up that I thought was a good point, and I did not see it as I went through this, is where's the whole Clinton camp was hacked by Russiagate? Look at this tweet. Durham Report underscores all this stuff, all this, lack of collusion that Trump was talking about. But he doesn't touch Russiagate's core allegation, which the Clinton camp also generated and the FBI and the media parroted, which is the alleged Russian hacking of the DNC.
Oh, right.
So what happened there? I guess that's just, the report is over 300 pages. I have not read it in its entirety. I spent a long time today before my eyes crossed. But yeah, that's not one of them. It's just one of those things where it's like, this is something, we let them run away with it. We don't know what they found. I do think that I'm happy to see this report. I'm happy that it exists, that I'm happy that it was done. I'm encouraged that the FBI says we won't, let this happen again, but I'm not encouraged that there's just one lawyer passed along false information and got prosecuted and nobody else.
Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy this morning says that they need to disband the FBI. As president, he would disband it. RFK Jr. has already said that as well about the CIA and the FBI. Senator Josh Hawley calls for the end of the FBI today as well. Sitting members of Congress calling for the end of the FBI. It won't matter, though. They get rid of the FBI. It's a hydra. It'll just pop up in other ways. The deep state exists.
Yeah, I think we all owe it to ourselves to think about, how lawless we already are in the United States and what might happen without the FBI. That's a scary thought. I don't know. Is that really the answer? And what happens next?
I was just going to say really quick, if this happens, if the FBI is like, okay, we're going to turn things around, it would be the first government or agency that is open and transparent. Like, it'd be the only one. So how could they exist in all this other crap with all these other agencies and everything? It just wouldn't make sense.
Well, okay, they're hot right now on politically motivated investigations, right? They're going full board against Trump. And they went full board against anyone associated with Trump for a long time. So are they going to say like, ooh, let's cool that for a while? That we shouldn't want that either. We should want a point that Phillips brought up many times. We should want everybody looked out for all their bad stuff, period. Unbiased way, right? Everybody should get that. That's not what we had, at least in 2016.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then a lot of people in the chat saying, well, the FBI will just turn into the IRS, which they already in many ways are. So,
Well, we've already got the Department of Homeland Security, so they'll just become DHS, and then
you guys are all being super pessimistic.
They're not going to go away.
I think at this point, I'm like, I'm so happy to see this. This is how I feel about it. Like, my gosh,
I love that you're suddenly
the system working. Like somebody is putting checks and balance on corruption and putting it out there. The media doesn't give a crap.
Where's the balance, though? That's the question. Like, where are we going to see a slew of prosecutions as a result of this? It's like when we go through the 2000s.
Or will we see a slowing of Republican prosecutions?
What does that mean? You mean of them being prosecuted?
Well, they're like, one side we got our foot on the gas and the other side we got our foot on the brake. So let's do that, right? And take our foot off the gas of Republican. I don't know. Like, we shouldn't want that to happen. We should want, equal protection under the law. No. And also... Yeah. What? Go ahead.
No. I was going to wait till you finish your thought. Donald Trump today called it the greatest crime in American history. Well, let us know your thoughts on this. Do you think it's the greatest crime in American history? I guess arguably next to the assassination of JFK as a sitting president of the United States, and we know the collusion there with the deep state. So,
and it's being referred to Congress. So could Congress then pick up an impeachment for post? For Joe Biden?
I know he was in the meeting.
Clearly.
He was in the meeting. He was definitely a part of it. There's a laundry list of things that Biden could be impeached for right now. Maybe this is even like, I was just in the meeting. There's a lot more on that list. But we'll see. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.